Hey guys, my name is Anthony and in today's video I'm going to be talking about how to actually brake without ABS and not lock. Alright, hey again guys, this is Anthony basically whilst I'm editing the video. One thing that I mentioned towards the end of the video but I thought would actually be better placed towards the beginning of the video is basically you're going to see gameplay of two league races that I did, one at Austria, which was one that I did last week, and then one that was at Monza, which I did a couple of weeks ago. And you're going to see me braking and obviously stuff like that during this gameplay, but sometimes the gameplay is going to fade into a time trial gameplay of me where I'm on purpose braking and locking up the car and doing things that you shouldn't be doing, just so that you guys can actually see what you should be doing versus what you shouldn't be doing. So for example, sometimes maybe the gameplay will overlap when I'm going through a certain corner, and then I'll go into time trials and then do the same corner, but I'll on purpose mess it up so you can see what the corner looks like when you get it right versus when you get it wrong. So yeah, let's continue the video. Car up, and also how to find your braking points on different tracks. So getting straight into it. When it comes to actually braking without ABS, obviously the biggest issue that people have when it comes to braking without ABS is locking up the car, and a lot of people just don't know how to brake and turn without locking up the car. So I'm going to be talking about that, and the main way that you can brake without locking up the car is using something called trail braking. Now there is another method called pump braking, but because I'm not personally familiar with pump braking because I don't use it, I'm not really going to talk about it because there's no sense in me talking about something that I don't really know about because I don't use. But I do use trail braking, and what trail braking is it's when you apply 100% of the brake pressure straight away. So as soon as you start braking, you apply, whether you're using the pad or whether you're using the pedals on a wheel, you apply 100% of the brake pressure, and then as you slowly start to slow down and start to turn the car into a corner, you want to slowly lift off the brake pedal. Because basically when it comes to an F1 car, for example, when it comes to any car really, but specifically an F1 car, basically the car can only do so much. Obviously it's a very, very quick car, but the car can only do so much in terms of the amount of grip that the car has on the surface of the road, of the tarmac. So by braking and also turning at the same time, you're basically telling the car to do too much, and that's the reason why you lock the car up. So essentially what you want to do is you want to brake whilst in a straight line and then turn whilst you're not braking, so that you're basically the car's not doing too much, it's not overloading essentially. So that's what trail braking really helps with, especially on turns like turn 10 for example at Bahrain, where you pretty much need to brake and turn at the same time. So when it comes to actually trail braking at certain corners, obviously I've got some background footage of the Austrian Grand Prix league race I did recently, so you know you'll see different type of corners when it comes to braking. For example at turn 3, or technically turn 2, whatever you want to call it, basically the tight hairpin, that's a heavy braking zone. So essentially as soon as you hit the 100 meter board, which is the braking point for that corner, you want to apply 100% of the throttle straight away, and then as you slowly start to turn the car, as you start to turn the steering wheel, you want to slowly release off. The more you turn, the less you brake. That's essentially what you want to do when it comes to trail braking. And then there's other corners, for example I think it's turn 5 and 6 I believe, or maybe turn 6 and 7 at Austria, those two left-handers, those are not as heavy braking zones, so you don't want to apply 100% of the throttle or else you're going to lock the car up. There's certain corners where applying too much brake pressure will lock the car up regardless of whether you're in a straight line or not. That's just how certain corners work. In terms of that, you're just going to have to find that out through practice alone. You know, there's not really much I can really tell you about that. If I was to tell you, I'd literally have to sit here and list every single corner on the F1 calendar, which I'm obviously not going to do. So you want to go out there, you want to practice, and you eventually learn when it comes to what corners should you be braking a certain amount of pressure at. And obviously that comes with practice. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into the specific track that you want to learn the brake points for, and then you're just going to want to drive. I want to say it's pretty much the same process as you would with driving without the racing line, which I do have a video on that. So if you want to check that out as well, if you want to start learning how to drive without the racing line, then click the link at the top right hand of the screen. But getting back into it, basically you want to start by driving the car roughly about 50 to 75% of what you're capable of, just around the track for maybe 5 laps, and just see how different corners flow, because different corners flow in different ways. Like for example, a chicane, you're gonna have to brake and accelerate differently than you would at a hairpin, for example, because obviously a chicane is 2 quick corners, it's 2 corners in quick concession, whereas a hairpin is just usually 1 corner. So you know, you're just gonna want to drive at a certain amount and just feel how the track flows, and then after that you want to do another 5 laps but at 100% of what you can do. And then you know, you want to ask yourself questions, ask yourself basically what, when it comes to braking specifically, how should I brake at certain corners. So for example, you know, looking at the first corner of Monaco, you want to brake pretty heavy, but at the same time you don't want to brake 100% because you can lock the car up, because there's a little bump, especially on F1 2019, there's a little bump right before you turn, and that can actually help lock up the car if you're braking at 100% at that point. So you know, you just want to time braking correctly. Whereas at Monza, you know, the first corner, the first chicane, that's a very, very heavy braking zone, and you pretty much want to be braking 100% for most of the braking zone. So you want to brake maybe about just after the 150 meter board, or if you dare closer to the 100 meter board, and then you want to brake 100%, keep the car straight, and then as soon as you slow down and start to turn in, that's when you want to lift off of the brake pressure there. So you know, when it comes to ABS, it's all about trail braking, and it's all about understanding how much brake pressure you should be applying and when you should be starting to modulate, just starting to lift, whether it's your finger on the pad or whether it's your foot on the pedal, start lifting off the brake pedal. Obviously when it comes to that sort of stuff, having a load cell pedal is actually easier to do trail braking in, but you don't need a load cell pedal, you don't need a load cell brake pedal in order to do trail braking. Because me personally, I just have the standard Thrustmaster T3 PA pedals, and as you can see in the gameplay behind you, you know, I'm doing quite well when it comes to, you know, modulating my brake correctly. So when it comes to actually finding brake points now, rather than just braking, you know, there's lots of information around you on the track. So you know, looking at Austria, there's lots of you know, meter boards, there's lots of different static sort of items. So like you're looking at like pieces of grass, or you know, like the little paint, the little orange paint on some of the fences. You want to look for different references and basically use those references to understand when you should be braking. The best way to find references, there's two good ways to find references when it comes to braking points on certain tracks. My favorite way is simply to just go and watch hot laps from other people. You know, you've got TRL Limitless, you've got Veloce James, you've even got you know, some older videos from people like OMG It's Joe and Veloce Surprise, where you can just watch those hot laps and see where they're braking. And you know, you want to maybe slow down the video to maybe 25% of the full speed. You want to slow down the video, see exactly where they're braking, because this is exactly what I did. I just watched hot laps after hot laps, and I just basically slowed down the video, and I said to myself, okay, where they're braking, okay, they're braking at this little grey patch on the road, I want to start trying to learn how to brake there, and stuff like that. So you really want to watch a lot of hot laps. Another way is just to simply go in time trials and learn it yourself, and the best way for you to learn yourself is pretty much by doing the same thing I've said multiple times when it comes to driving without the racing line and when it comes to learning how to brake. Just go out there, drive at a certain capacity, ask yourself questions, and then go out and then drive at full capacity and see what changes, and then continue to ask yourself questions, and then you will slowly learn through there. So you know, when it comes to finding braking points, it's really about looking for different references, and everybody has different references, to be honest with you, when it comes to certain things. Like for example, at turn 1 on Monza, some people might use the 150 meter board, some people may even use the 100 meter board to gauge where they brake. I actually do something that's very unique to me, and basically what I do is, the second that I pass the 150 meter board, I count to 1 in my head, and then as soon as I say 1 in my head, that's when I start braking. Now, obviously it's not necessarily something that everybody can do, because that's something I did for myself. So you know, you want to really find your own reference points, and just find your own ways of basically understanding when you should be braking. And as time goes on, you'll just get better and better and better when it comes to spotting your reference points. At first, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's gonna be difficult to spot your reference points because you're trying to drive and look around you at the same time. But with practice, you're gonna slowly start to learn, okay, well, this is where my braking point is, and you'll be able to see it from your peripheral vision, so that you don't have to really look over there. Sometimes even now, obviously I've not been playing F1 for too long, you know, F1 2019 is my first game, but you know, even times now I still find myself looking towards my braking point and then quickly shifting over to where the apex is. As time goes on, I'm gonna learn, okay, well, that's where my braking point is. I can see it from my peripheral vision, and I'm just looking at the apex so that I can get the best sort of angle into the corner. So if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. At the time of recording this, I am only 1 subscriber away from 100. It'd be amazing if I could hit that 100 mark and then push on towards my next mark, which would be 200 subscribers obviously. You may have noticed in this video as well that I do have some gameplay overlapping the main gameplay, and basically the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm basically showing you what actually happens when you brake and you lock the car up in different conditions. So I've got gameplay at Austria, that was my league race recently. I've also got gameplay there at Monza, which was a league race I did a couple of weeks back in the wet. So there's going to be some gameplay there of me overlapping, basically showing you me in time trials, braking, and on purposely looking up the car so you can see exactly what it looks like when you lock up the car in these corners and what not to do. So yeah, if you like these type of videos, I'm going to be posting these type of videos a lot when F1 2020 comes out in a few months. So you're definitely going to want to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you can see those in the future. And I'll see you guys in my next video.